Hi there and welcome in this video where we're going to take a look at the difference between deze, die, dat and dit. Let's start with an example. Dit boek is goed en dat boek is niet goed. This book is good and that book isn't good. So, well, that's very easy. So, dit means this and dat means that. Well, in this case, yes. However, there are other cases and we're going to take a look at the next one. Deze auto is goed en die auto is niet goed. What does that mean? This car is good and that car isn't good. And why don't we use dit and dat? Well, in Dutch, nouns can take different articles. There's het and there's de. And when you're using het as an article, you're going to use dit and dat. So this here and that there, dit hier and dat daar. However, nouns that take de as an article will take deze for here and die for there, for things that are a little bit further away. If this article thing is completely new to you, feel free to click on the link you see there above to know more and learn more about Dutch, and you can come back later on. Now, assuming that you know there are different articles and you want to move on. Well, that is the main difference why we're using deze and die and dit and dat. However, there's also another use. You can use all these dit, deze and dat, etc. On themselves. For example, deze is goed and die is niet goed. And what does it mean here? This one is good and that one isn't good, assuming that you know what we're talking about. Alright, so they're not always just in front of a noun. And just a little thing that is nice to know, in Dutch, words have genders. So the words that are taking het as an article are neuter, so that they're not male or female, but the words are male or female. And how do you know when it's a male and how do you know when it's a female? Well, actually, personally, I don't know them all. Most of them actually I don't know, and that is why sometimes we use die to avoid having to say hij or zij, he or she. Obviously, with people, we're going to use he or she, but with things that take de as an article, then we can use die. But that's just for you to know, just like that. So, is that it? Is that all? So you're going to use die for saying this and that, and you can use it on itself. Well, there is another use for dat and die. And we're going to take a look at the next example. Ik lees het boek dat jij ook leest. I read the book you're also reading. Or I read the book that you also read. And then you'll be like, yeah, but in English you don't really need it there. Well, yeah, but in Dutch you do need the dat there. When you're starting a subclause, so a second sentence with a verb and a subject, then you need to have a word there. Ik lees het boek dat jij ook leest. Second example, zie je de man die ik zie? Do you see the man I see? And there, again, you have to use this die. And why is it die and why is it dat? Well, simply because dat is with het words and die is with de words. In English, you have a few choices there, especially with the second one there. Do you see the man I see? Or do you see the man that I see, I think? Or do you see the man who I see? And the who, please do not translate it as a subclause with wie. No. Use die instead. Or dat for het words. All right? So remember, deze, die for the words, dit, dat for het words, and dat and die can also be used to start a subclause. And they actually have to be used because you need to have a word that introduces the subclause in Dutch. All right, this question was asked by someone called Lubatsewicz. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you are interested in more of these things, feel free to follow my courses that you can find through the link below.